Very good morning, students. Welcome back to online class on Java programming course. Before your external exams, we have completed the concept of packages in Java. We discussed how we can create the packages in Java programming and how these packages are helpful in organizing the Java classes. And we have also seen the default keyword, the access specifier default keyword effect on these packages. So with that we have concluded the packages concept, and in today's session hopefully we will start another important concept in your Java programming, that is exception handling. Okay, more or the less I will try to take 2 sessions to complete this exception handling, and then we will get into the multi-threading concept, which is another important concept in Java programming. Okay, so without wasting our time, directly we'll get into the uh, exception handling. So this exception handling, it is not new to us because we already discussed many of the concepts in exception handling in your C++, that is data structures, which you have completed in your third semester. So as you know, exception is an abnormal condition or a runtime error, isn't it? So exception is nothing but it is an abnormal condition which needs to be handled. So why there is a need to handle exception, and what happens if we don't handle exception, all those things we need to discuss. Okay, so the first point, if you read in this particular slide, the exception handling in Java is one of the powerful mechanism to handle the runtime errors. See, when we do the application development in our organizations or in a project, so errors are quite common. So if they are syntactical errors, so to some extent the compiler will help us in order to rectify those syntactical errors. But when it comes to logical errors, or but when it comes to the errors which are beyond our scope or beyond our control, then what will happen? Those error conditions or those exceptions, they will make our application to stop running or to make our application crash. So in order to avoid these type of situations, we need to handle the exceptions. Exceptions, we said, the abnormal conditions which occur at the time of execution of the program. At compile time, if any error is there, we can control and we can remove that error from our program, from our logic or from our code. But if it occurs at runtime, so runtime means when you have deployed your application, when you have given your application to the customer, runtime means we don't know the runtime scenario. We don't know what type of hardware our application is going to run. So maybe the hardware issues, maybe the what we call other type of input issues. So in order to avoid all those things, we need to go for exception handling principle or exception handling mechanism. Okay, so uh, yes, yeah, these exception handling in Java, it is one of the powerful mechanism to handle the runtime errors so that the normal flow of the application can be maintained. So even if there are errors, I mean, even if your application goes under error conditions, so still, what should happen? Your program execution should not stop. Your application execution should not stop, and it should execute like a normal program only. The normal flow of the application, it should be maintained. Okay. Yes. So if you see the dictionary meaning of the term exception, it is nothing but the abnormal condition. Exception is nothing but abnormal condition. Okay. In Java, it is an event basically. So it occurs. So exception, it is not something which is present and which is going to give issues to us. When you execute the program, it suddenly it gets into suddenly it comes into picture, and suddenly it stops the entire application. Okay, so because of that reason we are calling it as an event, because it waits for the occurrence. Okay, it is not something which is always present. Okay, it is something which waits for occurrence. So because of that reason we are calling it as an event. Okay, so it is an event and it disturbs the normal flow of the program. Generally whenever an exception occurs, there only the program execution will stop. Okay, and the control of the program, which will not consider the remaining code in present inside your program. Because of that reason only we are going to handle the exceptions. Okay, uh, uh, I mean, in general, in Java, whenever an exception occurs, an object of that particular exception will be created, and it will be thrown out of that block at the time of runtime, at the time of execution of the program. So basically, let us assume we have a block of code. Block of code is nothing but statements enclosed within parenthesis. Okay, curly brackets. So like this. This is my block of code, and I am considering at this particular point an exception is occurring. Okay, so what will happen? An object representing that exception will be created by your Java runtime only. Okay, it will create an object and it will put all the description related to that exception, the complete description related to that exception, and it will throw this object out of this block. Okay, this object will be thrown out of this block. Okay, it will come out like this. Suppose if an arithmetic exception occurs, then what will happen? An object representing that arithmetic exception will be created, and it will be thrown out of that block, like that, you remember. Okay, so generally whenever we handle the exception, we will be worrying about this object only. Whatever object it is creating and whatever object it is throwing out of the block, we are worrying about that object only. We are bothering about that object only. Okay, so it is a runtime condition, and if you don't handle it, exception is nothing but it is an runtime condition, abnormal condition, and if you don't handle it, your program execution will be stopped abruptly. So in order to maintain the continuous flow or the normal flow of our application, we are handling this exception, and how we are going to handle that exception, we are very soon we are going to learn. Okay, so what is exception handling? Just now I told you, exception handling is a mechanism to handle runtime errors. Such as, I have listed some of the exceptions over here. So all exceptions in your Java programming, all exceptions in your Java programming, they are objects. Remember this one. They are objects. And in order to handle those exceptions, we have to depend on some predefined exception classes. Because whenever we are saying object, so object is definitely going to have a class, isn't it? Without class, there is no existence of the object. So when I'm saying object, it must and should have a class associated with it. Okay, so whatever objects the runtime environment is creating, depending on the exception type, it basically creates depending upon the exception classes only. Whatever classes we have in Java programming to handle the exceptions, a suitable object of that particular class will be created when an exception occurs. So let us say the first exception type here which I mentioned is class not found exception. Okay, class not found exception. Generally we see this type of error whenever you take the program name a different name, and public class name a different name. So, and if you try to execute the program with a program name, and if you don't have any such class in that program, then what will happen? Class not found exception will occur. So basically whenever you are executing a class with the Java command, so in order to execute the program, which command we use? Java command we use. So if you are executing, if you are using the Java command with a class name, and that class name, let us assume it is not present inside the current directory, then what will happen? Class not found exception will be raised. So class not found, it is a runtime exception. Until and unless you run the program, you will not know whether that class is existing or not. Neither your code will know, neither your compiler will know what I mean to say. So if the compiler is not knowing, how come you are going to list that error at compile time? So it is a runtime error. If class is not there, it is a runtime error. So class not found exception, it is a runtime error, and it needs to be handled properly inside your program. Okay. Another type of error, input output exception. So suppose if there is any issue in reading the input, that is your keyboard, and if in writing the output, that is your terminal, if you have any such kind of exception, or file input output operation when you are performing, and if the file not found, so all such types of exceptions will come under input output exception. Then SQL exception, it deals with the database connectivity. If your Java program is having some connectivity with the Oracle database or any other vendor database, and that in order to have the connection between the database and the application, Java application, we need to establish the connection. So if that connection establishment fails, we will get SQL exception. Okay. So remote exception, if you are connecting your device, connecting your application remotely to some other device, and if that device is not present in the network, then what will happen? Remote exception will occur. So all such types of exceptions, we have a complete hierarchy of these exceptions that very soon we are going to study. So exception handling is a mechanism to handle the runtime errors. Remember this one. Okay. It is a mechanism. So what are the advantages of this exception handling? In the sense, the core advantages of exception handling is to maintain the normal flow of the application. So without exception handling, whenever an exception occurs inside your program, at that point only the program execution will be stopped. So in order to avoid such a thing, in order to avoid the abnormal termination of your program, or in order to avoid the interim program execution, we have to go for exception handling to maintain the normal flow of the application. So if you handle the exception, what will happen? Your normal flow, your regular flow of the program will be maintained. Only that particular statement which is causing the exception or which is giving the exception will be skipped, and the regular flow of the program will be maintained. Okay. An exception is normally disrupts the normal flow of the application. That is why we use exception handling. Already we said many times. So without exception handling, what will happen? Your normal flow will be disturbed, and in order to avoid that one, we are going for exception handling. So just take a scenario over here. So in order to explain how this exception handling will work, or how this exception handling is helpful in our programming, in our Java programming, we need to take the example. So here, how many statements I have? I have around 10 statements. So statement 1 to statement 10. I have around 10 statements in my program. So I'm taking the example over here. Okay, you consider it as a program, a Java program where I have 10 statements written. So what I am saying at line 5, okay, at line 5, what is happening? An exception is occurring. Okay, at statement 5, an exception is occurring. So if that exception is not handled properly, so first we consider that we are not handling that exception. So then what will happen? So statement 1 to statement 5 will be executed normally. First, the control will start the execution from statement 1, then statement 2, then statement 3, statement 4, and then statement 5. At statement 5, what I am saying, an exception is present, so the program execution will be stopped because we are not handling that exception. So by giving the error message, the program execution will be stopped at that line itself, at that statement itself. Okay, so in that case, what will happen? Statement 6 to statement 10 will not be executed. So the control, or the Java command control will simply, Java runtime environment will simply skip statement 5, statement 6 to statement 10. Okay, so but if we perform exception handling, so let us say wherever the exception is occurring, if you handle this exception properly by the exception handling mechanism, then what will happen? Yes, from statement 1 to statement 10, all statements will be considered and all statements will be executed, and your compiler will give, or your runtime environment will give only the proper message of these exception. Okay, so that is the reason why exception handling in Java is very, very important. So without exception handling, the program execution will be stopped, and with exception handling, your normal flow of the program will be maintained. Normal flow of the application will be maintained. Okay, only these things. I mean, we have completed like 3 to 4 slides, and in that slides we are discussing only this one. What happens, what is an exception, we discussed, and what happens if we don't handle the exception, that we discussed, and what happens if we handle the exception, that also we discussed. Okay, this is the hierarchy of classes, because I said, so whenever we are going for exception handling, all those exceptions, in order to handle them, we have to understand the hierarchy of classes, different classes that are available in Java, in order to handle the exceptions, or in order to work with these exception handling. Okay, all these classes, okay, all these classes, they are part of your java.language package, java.lang package. Okay, the java.lang.throwable class is the root class of Java exception hierarchy. So whatever classes we have that are helpful in handling the Java exceptions, all those classes are subclasses to your throwable class. If you see at the top of this exception class hierarchy, we have a class called throwable, this particular one, throwable, and it is a class under java.language package. Where it is? It is under java.lang package, because all classes in your Java programming, they are organized and they are kept under proper packages. So whenever we are talking about a class, you have to know under which package that class is existing. So see, from now on, from this point on, we are going to study all the predefined classes, because Java is nothing but the predefined stuff. Okay, predefined classes, how we are going to handle the exceptions, or how we maintain the exception handling in Java programming, means that is with the help of predefined classes only. And then we discussed about multi-threading. There also we are going to study about predefined classes. Then collection framework. Framework is nothing but it is the study of all predefined stuff. Everything is predefined. We are not going to frame any logics over there, like your data structures. Inside your data structures, what we have done, complete linked lists, stacks, queues, all the what we call searching, sorting mechanisms, implementation of AVL, BTS, all these things we have done manually from the basic level, isn't it? We have done manually, but over here we won't do in that way. We study data structures in Java also, we study data structures, but we won't do at the basic level. The coding, the logic implementation, we will not do. It is already there. The logic implementation, the coding, it is already there. Then what we have to do? If it is there, how we can use that coding? What classes we have to use? What packages we have to use? What methods we have to use? Okay, all these things we need to study. So it is something like, I mean, to my understanding, it is something like mugging up the stuff. Instead of implementing the logic, we need to mug up. We need to mug up the stuff now. Okay, we need to mug up the predefined classes names. We need to mug up the predefined methods names. Okay, we need to mug up what parameters a predefined method will take, and what return value a predefined method will give. Okay, in that scenario, I mean, whenever we are studying about a class, what is the superclass to it and what are the subclasses to it? Likewise, we need to study. Okay, we need to mug up the stuff. So collections framework, it is entirely the implementation of data structures. Okay, like we implement linked list, we implemented it, your stacks, your queues, your trees, your what we call many different vectors, array list, many different things we have. All these are data structures. Okay, all these are examples for data structures, and all these things we are going to study under collections framework. And believe me, we don't do the implementation over there. We don't do the implementation. In order to generate a linked list in Java, you no need to worry about how a node will be created, how two nodes will be linked together. All those things we don't do over here. We simply need to know what is the predefined class in order to work with linked list. Okay, that predefined class name we need to remember. Just the class name we need to remember. Okay, then the methods which are helpful in performing different operations on linked lists, that method names we need to remember. And once you do that, it is very easy for you to implement the linked list. So implementation of linked lists, I'm just taking the example. There are many different things that we have in Java. Just give me a second. Okay, so as I said, we need to discuss the predefined classes. We need to discuss the predefined methods when we are talking about these Java. Okay, the implementation in Java. So as you see, the topmost class in exception handling is the throwable class. Then we have two subclasses to this throwable class. The first one is the exception class, and the other one is the error class. Okay, so again, to this exception class we have different subclasses like IO exception, SQL exception, class not found exception, then runtime exception. All these are subclasses to the exception class. Okay, to the error class, again we have different subclasses like stack overflow error, virtual machine error, then out of memory error. So these are the subclasses to your error class. In your runtime exception class, again we further have many different subclasses like your arithmetic exception, null pointer exception, number format exception, array index out of bounds exception. Okay, so generally this array index out of bound exceptions is a class. Index out of bounds exception is a class. To this class we further have two classes, like it can be array index out of bounds exception and string index out of bounds exception. So we already discussed array and string. So yeah, if you are going beyond the index value of an array, then array index out of bounds exception will occur. And if you are going beyond the index value of a string, then string index out of bounds exception will occur. Okay, there is a slight difference between array and string that we know already. Okay, so this is the hierarchy, and we need to know all these classes and what happens if a particular type of error occurs and how we can handle that error. uh, I mean, we need to discuss. Okay, so the topmost class is the throwable class, which is having two subclasses, the exception and error. Okay, based on this hierarchy, how the classes maintained in your java.lang package, the exceptions are categorized. So types of exceptions in Java, there are mainly two types. Okay, checked and unchecked. Okay, checked exceptions and unchecked exceptions. So here an error is considered as an unchecked exception only. But according to Oracle, because this type of categorization, only two, checked and unchecked, this type of categorization is given by the Sun Microsystems. Previously you may be aware that the Java, it was under Sun Microsystems organization. Okay, it was open source, it was under Sun Microsystems. But now the Oracle people, they got the complete rights on Java. So Java is under Oracle now. And according to the Oracle people, still it is open source. Java, still it is open source, but it is under Oracle now. So according to Oracle, there are three types of exceptions. Sun Microsystem people, they said only two. That is checked and unchecked. Checked and unchecked. So the error class, it is, they said, the error category, they said it is under unchecked. But according to the Oracle, there are three types of exceptions. That is, they separated this error. Okay. So the first one is checked exceptions, then unchecked exceptions, then errors. As you can see over here, exception handling is nothing but the study of these exception categories: checked exceptions, unchecked exceptions, and errors. If you become familiar with these things, okay, I can say 90% of the job is done. If you know what is checked and how we can handle, if you know what is unchecked and how we can handle, and what are errors can we handle, all these things, if you know, 90% of your job is done. Okay. So the difference between all these types of exceptions we need to know: the checked exceptions, unchecked exceptions, and errors. Okay. See, the categorization, as I said, this checked exception, unchecked exception, and errors, this categorization is purely based on the exception hierarchy, exception class hierarchy. The way they maintained these classes, the way they maintained these classes in your java.lang package, based on that only they have categorized these exceptions. So if you see, checked exceptions are nothing but the classes which directly inherit the throwable class. Okay, throwable class except runtime exception and errors. Okay, except runtime exception and error are known as checked exception. So whatever hierarchy we have, so what we need to do in this hierarchy, so the runtime exception subclasses, so this partition, this entire partition, it didn't come under the checked exceptions. This entire partition as well as the error class, these things will not come under the checked exception. So only the IO exception, SQL exception, and class not found exceptions are the checked exception. So here you can see examples are IO exception, SQL exception, and there is another one. Here they said etc, but there is only another one, that is class not found exception. So these three exceptions are the examples of checked exceptions. Oh, so these checked exceptions, they okay, even it is very difficult to handle them at the time of compilation, but they got the what we call the compiler notice at the time of compilation. Okay, they simply got the notice, or we can say they will be checked by the compiler at the time of compile time. Okay, then we have the unchecked exception. The classes which inherit runtime exception are known as unchecked exceptions. Okay, so the classes which inherit the runtime exception. Runtime exception is nothing but all these classes, like your arithmetic class, arithmetic exception, null pointer exception, number format exception, then the two array index out of bounds and string index out of bounds exception. All these are examples for unchecked. These are checked. And this is error. So in this three, yeah, to some extent you can overcome checked exceptions and unchecked exception, but these errors, they are very crucial and they are completely out of our control. So when the stack will overflow, we don't know, isn't it? So we cannot control that one. And when the virtual machine error we will get, that also we don't know. It is completely related to the hardware. And out of memory exception, it is also hardware error. So these type of exceptions we cannot simply solve. We have to leave them like that. We have to leave them. Even if those errors occurs in our program, nobody will stop it from. Okay, if memory out of memory means, what we can do? Out of memory means ultimately your program will stop its execution. And virtual machine error, if you are interacting with a virtual machine and if that virtual machine is going down, let us assume, so we can't control. If the machine is behaving weirdly, strangely, if your hardware is behaving strangely, means we can't control it. Same thing with stack overflow. If your stack overflows, whatever elements you're trying to store on that stack, they will simply discard it, isn't it? They will simply discard it. So those discarded items we cannot get it back. So errors we cannot irrevocable, we can say. We cannot correct that mistake. Whatever damage the errors has done to our application or to our system, that we cannot get back. Okay. So here you can see errors are irrevocable in the sense we cannot undo that one. We cannot undo. Okay. So those errors are nothing but out of memory error, virtual machine error, and assertion error. These type of things we can call them as errors, and they are not in our control. Okay. So in order to do the exception handling in Java, we have 5 keywords, and we need to know these 5 keywords with more clarity. And once we know these 5 keywords, our complete exception handling will be done. So here we have the try, catch, finally, throw, and throws keywords. These 5 keywords. So whatever code you think that will generate exception, or whatever statements you think will generate exception, what we have to do, you simply put that statements or simply put that code inside the try block. Okay. Try is a keyword, and using that keyword we will create a block of code. Okay. Generally try is a block. It is a programming construct, and it is used to monitor the exception, we can say. What it will do, it will monitor the exception. So the try keyword is used to specify a block. As I said, it is a block where we should place exception code. The code the suspicious code which you think will generate an exception. Okay. So how we come to know that a piece of code or a line of code will generate exception, in the sense, based on the type of operation you are performing, or based on the type of activity you are performing. Let us say you are writing a database connectivity statement. You are writing a line of code which is responsible for communicating with the database. So that communication, there is a possibility that that communication will be failed, isn't it? When you are trying to connect to a database, if that database server is down, what will happen? The communication will fail, or that connection will fail. So ultimately what we have to do, we have to monitor that line of code for the SQL exception. If the connection is successful, no exception will be thrown. If that connection is failed, an object of SQL exception will be created, and that will be thrown out of that block. So in order to monitor that particular line, we need to put that line inside the try block. Okay. So the try keyword is used to specify a block where we should place exception code. Okay. The try block must be followed by either a catch block or a finally block. So catch and finally we are going to study very soon. Okay. Catch block is responsible for processing that exception. Whatever exception is thrown out of the try block, in order to process that exception, the catch block is used. Okay. It means we can't use try block alone. The try block, if you're using the try block alone, it is the same. I mean, it is same like not using it. So when the exception is thrown, it must be handled. So in order to handle that exception, we have to go for catch, or we have to go for finally. So those two blocks are responsible for handling the exception. So if you're simply catching, I mean, if you're simply creating the exception object and throwing that exception handling object, and you're not handling that object, means it is useless. So using the try block alone is useless, what I mean to say. Then the catch block. The catch block is used to handle the exception. It is the block which is responsible for giving the proper message of the raised exception, or thrown exception, we can say. Whatever exception is thrown out of the try block, the catch block is responsible for handling that exception by giving a proper message. Okay. It must be preceded by a try block. So always when we write the catch block, in the sense, after the try block we will write, which means we can't use the catch block alone. Again, using the catch block alone, it is not possible, because if you are using the catch block, I mean, what it will do, isn't it? The responsibility of the catch block is to handle the exceptions thrown by the try block. So if you're writing a catch block without the try block, so from where it will get that object to handle or to process, isn't it? So Writing only the try block alone or writing only the catch block alone is meaningless in Java programming. That's the reason we always write try, it must be followed by a catch, or it must be followed by a finally, or catch, it must always be followed by the uh, try. Okay, it must always come after the try. Then finally, the finally block is used to execute the important code of the program. So sometimes what will happen, if you're performing a file operation in your program, let us say, or if you're performing the database connectivity in your program, let us say. So in both the scenarios, what you will do, you will create a stream, or you will establish a connection between the file and between the database and your application. If you are communicating with a file, you are establishing a connection between the application and the file. And if you are communicating with the database, you are establishing a connection between the application and the database. So these connections, they will be open as long as you are reading and writing the data to the file or to the database. So, in order to communicate with these things like file and database, you are opening the connection. The connection is open. And before closing the connection, let us say your exception has occurred. Okay, there is an exception, there is an error, let us say, is occurring. So what this finally block will do means, this finally block will have very important code which is completely what we call which is completely not respective to the exception. Even if the exception is there in your Java program, this finally block will execute must and should. 100% for sure, we can say. Okay, so even if the exception is present in your program, and if you want to execute some lines of code or some statements, that statements you have to put inside this finally block. The finally block is used to execute the important code of the program. It is executed whether an exception is handled or not. So if you put some code in under the finally block, it is irrelevant that the exception is handled or not. It is not going to check whether the exception is there or not. Even if the exception is there, and even if you have not handled the exception, your finally block will be executed. Okay, it is completely not respective to your exception, we can say. Okay, then throw block, it is used to throw the exception manually. So uh, in practical scenarios, in order to test the code, okay, in order to test the code, what the programmers or the what the testing team will do means, they will generate the exceptions manually, and they will check whether your program will handle, or whether your application will handle those type of exceptions or not. So creating an exception, generally what we have to do, that type of situation, which is raising to the exception, that type of situation we need to create inside the application. It is a time consuming process. Let us say the testers, they want to test the file not found exception, or the testers, they want to test the database connection error. So generally what they have to do, they first have to write the code which is suitable for what we call generating the connection, and they have to do some mistake over there so as to test whether your application will handle that mistake or not. Isn't it? It is a time consuming process. Testers will not have that much of time, because they are responsible for testing so many applications. So what they will do means, they will throw the exception manually instead of regenerating all that scenario inside your program. Okay, instead of regenerating the exception scenario inside your program, they will simply throw that exception manually. So that throwing they will do with the help of throw keyword. And finally, the throws keyword. This throws keyword is used to declare the exception. So when you are writing a method, so that method, in order to safeguard that method, I can say, in order to safeguard that method from a particular type of exception, we use this throws class. Okay, it is a class basically. It doesn't throw an exception, it specifies that there may occur, exception may occur in the method. So to whatever method you are safeguarding with the help of this throws class, it will not throw the exception. It will simply tell the compiler that there is a possibility of occurrence of this particular type of exception in that particular method. So it will simply safeguard the method. okay, by a particular type of exception, with a particular type of exception. Okay, before executing that method only, the compiler will come to know that there is a possibility of occurrence of a particular type of exception in that particular method. Okay, this throws class will help in that particular manner. It is always used with method signature. So where we use this throws class, in the sense it is not with classes, but rather with methods we use this throws class. Hopefully you understood. So then Java's exception handling example. So it is a simple example where what I'm doing, I'm generating a normal exception, that is arithmetic type of exception. So yes, arithmetic type of exception, when it occurs, in the sense generally when you perform the arithmetic operations, this type of arithmetic exception will occur. So this scenario, let us quickly go to our edit plus and we will see what happens if we don't handle the exception. And I think that type of examples we have in our program. So if we don't handle and if we handle, what will happen? Yes, here we have that type of thing. So we will simply see, we will go according to our slides, and as my slide is saying to generate an exception and see what type of output you will get. So I will do using try catch only. Okay, I'm handling the exception, I'm giving a proper exception handler into my application. So what happens if we don't handle, that we will see afterwards, but here we will go according to our program. So what I have to do here, you can quickly observe that one. I'm writing a class. In that class, I'm writing a class, our public static void main method, and in that class I'm writing a statement which is responsible for generating an arithmetic exception. So divide by 0. So some value, if you divide by 0, what will happen? According to our mathematics, it reaches the infinite value. We cannot predict the value of this particular statement. This data variable, what value it is going to hold after this operation, we cannot predict. It is infinite. Okay, infinite in the sense unpredictable value. Okay, so because of that reason, what will happen? Your Java program, instead of performing this operation, it will throw an exception. It will create an exception object. What type of exception object? Arithmetic exception, because we are performing an arithmetic operation over here. So it will generate an arithmetic operation, arithmetic exception object. Okay, it will generate an object of class arithmetic exception, and it will throw that object out of this block. So then when the object is thrown, who will catch that one? The catch block will catch that one. Okay, the catch block will catch that one and checks that one, and it will print the stack trace, whatever error description that object is having, we are printing on the output screen, as you can see over here. Okay, so then we have the rest of the code, and that will also be executed. The rest of the code will also be executed. Why it will be executed? In the sense, because the exception is handled properly. Because the exception is handled properly, because of that reason only the rest of the code will be executed. If you don't handle this exception, what will happen? This rest of the code you will not see on the output screen. Okay, I will show you both the things. Okay, with handling and without handling, how my program will generate exception. If you don't handle the exception, what will happen? Generally, we discussed already this thing in your data structures. If we don't handle the exception, your program control or your JVM, Java Virtual Machine, will handle that exception, or your default exception handler. There will be a default exception handler in Java. That default exception handler is responsible for handling all the exceptions. But the problem of giving the exception to the exception handler is the rest of the code will not be executed. It will terminate the program abruptly. Your default exception handler, Java's default exception handler, what it will do? It will terminate the program execution abruptly. That disadvantage or that problem we have. If the program gets stopped abruptly, then what will happen? The rest of the code will not be executed. The program execution will stop at the point where the exception is occurring. Okay, so quickly we go and we see in the edit plus. So this is my edit plus, and here I'm writing the code. So you just observe the class name here. I have taken the test demo. So I will take the program name as test demo. So I will take the class name also as test demo only. So for that, class test demo. Okay, in it I'm writing my public static void main string args of. Okay, then like this. Here in this, what I am doing, I'm writing two statements. Int data equals to some 100 divided by 0. Okay, then printing the data. Printing data, how come? System dot out dot println, or else yes, println of, yeah, rest of the code. Rest of the code. So where the exception is occurring? The exception is occurring at this particular line, at line 5. According to the statements, at line 5 the exception is occurring. Okay, so what happens if the exception is occurring? Here only the program control will be stopped, because we are not handling the exception. So here only the program control will be stopped. Here only the object will be created, exception object will be created, and it is thrown out of the program, because there is no exception handler to handle. There is no catch block to handle. There is no try block to monitor. So what will happen? This exception will be thrown out of the block. And who will handle that exception in this case? The Java's default exception handler will handle that exception. It will print the stack trace. Whatever error message we will get, it will print that error message. But the problem, still there is a problem. The rest of the code, the rest of the program, here I am writing only one statement, but in your project implementation you will be having some 1000 lines. So those 1000 lines will be ignored. Okay, thousands of lines will be ignored. So that we don't want. So simply we go and you compile this program. Where it is? Yeah, inside tools we have Java compile. As you can see, the compilation, even though we have the runtime exception, it is not showing any error message over here. The program execution is successful. But when you run the program, you will get the output like this. See, exception in main, thread main, java dot lang dot arithmetic exception. What type of exception? Divide by 0 exception. Okay, who is handling this? Who is giving this error message? Java's default exception handler is giving this message. It is printing the stack trace. Whatever error message we got on the stack, that error message we are seeing on the output screen. Okay, and the rest of the code it is not displaying. As you can see, rest of the code it is not displaying. So it is skipping that statement. So here only the control is terminating. The program control is terminating. It is not considering the rest of the statements in your program. That's the reason rest of the code we are not getting on the output screen. So quickly we go and we monitor this exception with the help of try block. That is nothing but we give the proper coding for this one. So try catch automatically I am getting. So I will put this exception, I will put this line of code which is responsible for handling the exception over here. And next what I will do, what type of exception is it? We are performing arithmetic operation. So there is a possibility of occurrence of arithmetic exception. So put that class object over here. Okay. Arithmetic okay. Arithmetic yeah, here arithmetic exception AE. Let us say the object name AE I am giving. So here, yes, I need to print that object. System dot out dot print ln of AE. So now you check what will happen. See, inside my try block, I have written a statement, arithmetic statement. I am performing an arithmetic operation, division operation. That operation, if it is going to infinity, if it is raising an exception object, because it is an arithmetic operation. So what type of object? Arithmetic exception object will be created here, and it will be thrown out of this block. It will be thrown out of this block. Then where it will come? When it is thrown out of this block, it will come directly into this AE. Okay, it will come directly into this AE. Whatever error message you will get, that will come into AE. And using the catch block, we are printing that message on the output screen, properly on the output screen. So the exception generation, exception handling, we have done properly over here. So next thing, what will happen? Yeah, as the exception is handled properly, as the control is not given to the Java's default exception handler, the control will remain inside your application itself. So after generating the exception, after throwing the object, after catching the object, after handling the object, the control goes to the system.out.println statement, the next statement, and it will print the rest of the code statement on the output screen. So this is the advantage of handling the exception. Go and check how it will give the response. Yes, tools, Java compiler, program got compiled successfully. Then tools, run. As you can see, now we are getting the proper message, java.lang.arithmetic exception divide by 0. Proper message we are getting, and the rest of the code message also we are getting. That means the control is not leaving our program, rather it is continuing with our program execution even though there is an exception. This mechanism, this particular thing, we call it as an exception handling by try catch. Okay, we'll go to the slide and we will see what further concepts we have over there. So in this way we have handled and we have seen both the ways. What happens if you don't handle and what happens if you handle. Both the scenarios we discussed with clarity. So the next thing, common scenarios of Java's exceptions. Okay, there are given some scenarios, I mean we are going to discuss from next slide onwards, where unchecked exceptions may occur. They are as follows. The first scenario is a scenario where arithmetic exception occurs. So if you divide some value with 0, or more specifically we can say if the dividend goes to 0. Okay, if the divisor, if the divisor goes to 0, then what will happen? You will get an unpredicted value. Okay, in your arithmetic operation you will get an unpredicted value. That is an exception. Basically getting an unpredicted value, getting an infinite value inside your calculation, it is an error condition. So that error condition, who will handle? Any type of exception. Generally divide by 0 only occurs in case of arithmetic exception. Not only that, beyond that, if there is any error condition which occurs at the time of performing the arithmetic operations, then arithmetic exception will occur. That arithmetic exception who will handle? In the sense, the class arithmetic exception which is in your exception hierarchy, exception class hierarchy. Okay, so the next thing, a scenario where null pointer exception occurs. So if you are assigning null value to the string, and if you are calculating the length of that string. Okay, length of that, this we already seen, right? So this type of thing we will see. Okay, null pointer exception, how it occurs and how we can handle. So what I have done, I am creating a string. Okay, string str equals to, I'm assigning to null, isn't it? I'm assigning to null. Next thing, I'm trying to print system.out.println of. So if the string is null and you are applying the length operation on that one, it is an exception, because your string, it is not having any characters and you are trying to calculate the length of that string. So it is an error condition. What is that a type of exception? Null pointer exception. Okay, because your string, it is not pointing to any string. It is not pointing string, it is a reference. It must point a string, I mean physical string we can say. So the next thing is system.out.println of str dot length, like this, str dot length. If you try to calculate the length, what will happen? What type of exception will come? Yeah, here as the string is null, null pointer exception, null pointer exception. So NPE, that same thing we will print on the output screen, NPE, and we see whether rest of the code gets executed or not. So system dot out dot println of rest of the code. Like this we will check what will happen, what output we will get, we will check. Okay, so I have created a string and I'm assigning it to null. So this is string reference, this is string class object and it is a reference. If reference becomes null, it is not pointing to any string. So if it is not pointing to any string, if it is not holding any string, calculate the length of that string is an exception, because you're trying to calculate the length of a null pointer. So what will happen? It will give a null pointer exception. So that NPE will be NPE, a null pointer exception object will be created. Null pointer exception class object will be created here and it will be thrown out of this block. Then the catch block will catch that one and stores into this NPE. And we are printing that NPE on the output screen. Okay. So we are handling the null pointer exception properly. So you should get the null, rest of the code message as well on the output screen. str.length variable str class test demo. Yes, I have taken the S as capital over here and here small. That's the reason I got the error. So take both smalls. Now compile. As you can see, the compilation is successful. Now you run the program and see here. Rest of the code we are getting, and what type of exception? Null pointer exception is raised in our program. Okay, occurred in our program. That message we got on the output screen. Hopefully you understood. So the next thing, go to the slide. Okay, null pointer exception is another scenario, and there is one more scenario, a number format exception. So if you're trying to parse a string value into number, okay, if you're trying to parse a string value into number, then these are wrapper classes. This integer class, what you're seeing over here, integer dot parseInt, when we are saying this integer class, it is a wrapper class. Very soon we are going to discuss about wrapper classes. So integer is a wrapper class, and this wrapper class, when you are using with parseInt, generally you have to put a character value, a float value, a double value over here. All integral values you have to put. If you put a string over here, what will happen? A number format exception will arise, because string you can't convert it to number, and you're trying to convert a string into number. So what will happen? A number format exception will occur. So this type of exception we need to handle with a number format exception class. So here string, what we have done, we kept ABC into that one, ABC into that one, and I am trying to convert that string into integer. So int I equals to, integer is a class, wrapper class. Okay, if you have patience, if you want to study about this, you can study. Then parseInt is a method inside that integer class. Of str, we are saying we are trying to convert the str string into number, numerical value. So what will happen? A number format exception will occur. Number format exception will occur. NFE, number format exception. NFE, number format exception. So here it is an exception, a suitable object, number format exception class object will be created here and will be thrown out of this block, and your catch block is responsible for handling that object and printing the proper message, error message on the output screen. And it should, your program control should also execute the rest of the code, because we have handled the exception properly. So next, go compile Java compiler. You can see we are not getting any issues. Then run the program to see the output. See here. For input string ABC, number format exception has occurred, because we are trying to convert a string into numerical format, which is not possible. In this university, which is not possible. So we got rest of the code line will also be executed, because we have handled the exception with try catch properly. So the rest of the code is also be executed. So next thing, go to the PPT and check what we have after this scenario. The fourth scenario is array index out of bounds exception. So this when occurs means, when it will occur means, if you try to access the array value beyond its index, beyond its scope, okay, beyond its boundaries, we can say, beyond its boundaries. So if when you are creating an array of 5, okay, when you are creating an array of 5, here you can see we are creating an array with how many elements? 5 elements. So this is the way of creating an array in our Java. Int a of equals to new. We are allocating the memory dynamically. New int of 5. So what will happen? An array of 5 elements will be created. And what I am doing over here, I am trying to assign a value to a of 10. That is nothing but the 11th element in your array, because the index will start from 0 to 4. So a of 4 in the sense the 5th element, the last element. But a of 10 in the sense the 11th element in your array. When you try to access the 11th element, it is beyond the boundary of the array, isn't it? So what will happen? Beyond the index boundary of the array. So you will get an error. That type of error is nothing but array index out of bounds exception. Out of boundary exception. Okay, array index out of boundary exception. Array index out of bounds exception. The class name is array index out of bounds exception. So this type of error message you will get on the output screen. So quickly modify your program, same program. What I have to do, in my try block only I will keep all these things, because I need to monitor that code. So first create the array. Int a of equals to allocate the memory dynamically, that int of 5. Now how many elements in my array? Only 5 elements. So what I am trying, a of 10 I am trying to access, equals to 50 I am saying. So this is something going beyond the boundary, index boundary. Going beyond the index boundary. So what will happen? Array index out of bounds exception will occur here. Array index out of bounds exception. See, this big name you have to remember. Array index out of bounds exception. So AIBE, array index out of bounds exception. Okay. That same thing I want to print on the AIBE on the output screen, so that to see the error message from the stack trace. So the next thing, compile the program. Program got compiled successfully, as you can see. Yes, next execute the program, run the program to check the output. Yes, see here, as we are accessing the 10th index value, that is beyond the boundary of the index, beyond the index boundary of the array. So we got this error. Okay, array index out of bounds exception. And rest of the code is also executing, because we have handled this exception properly. Okay, hope you understood this one. So the next thing, yes, what are all the concepts we need to cover in this exception handling, in the sense in Java programming? First, we need to understand the try catch block. So we can even write the multiple catch blocks for a try block. We can even nest the try block, nested try block. Yes, what is finally block, how we can add it to our program, and what is throw keyword, and how we can propagate. Propagation is nothing but rethrowing the exception. How we can propagate the exception, how we can rethrow an exception. Then the throws keyword, we need to understand the working of throws keyword here. Propagation is nothing but rethrowing. This is an important concept. In last question paper they asked this question, what is exception rethrowing? Can we rethrow an exception? Then how? Okay, what is throws, Java's throws keyword, that this we need to understand. The difference between throw and throws. Another one, difference between final, finally and finalize. Then how we can create the custom exceptions. It is even possible not only on the predefined exception classes, we can also create our own exceptions. Okay, that also we will see. Okay, we can also create our own exceptions, and we can handle that type of exceptions in our program. Because when we study or when we learn an open source programming language, it will give the flexibility to the programmer to do some modifications in it. Okay, this custom exceptions concept is one such strategy. So you can download the Java, and you can add to the library files, you can add your own classes as well. So adding custom exceptions is nothing but one such way, modifying the Java's library. Okay, first one, the try catch block. Already we discussed much about it. I have given many examples about it. The try block is used to enclose the code that might throw an exception, the suspicious code which you think will throw an exception, you must put that code inside the try block in order to handle it. It must be within the method. Okay, always the try block should go within the method. Directly you cannot put it in a class, or you cannot put it somewhere other than the method. Okay, always the try block should go inside a method. If an exception occurs, so inside the try block, if an exception occurs, what the try block will do means it will create, okay, it will create a suitable object to that particular type of exception. Okay, and then the rest of the code block will not be executed. So whatever code you have inside the try block after the exception, that will be skipped. Okay, but the code after the catch block, it will be considered and executed. The code which is there inside the try block, it will be skipped. Okay, that also we will see with example. It is recommended, so when you're keeping the code inside the try block, it is recommended not to put any code that will not throw an exception. Always you have to put only the code which is throwing an exception, and put only that code which is throwing the exception. Don't put unnecessary stuff over there. What will happen if you put unnecessary stuff inside the try block? In the sense, if the exception occurs at the exception statement, if the exception occurs, the rest of the statements will be skipped. Okay, the rest of the statements which are part of try block will be skipped. But your program will not terminate. Whatever code, whatever statements you have after the catch block, they will be considered and they will be executed. Okay, we will see both the things with examples. Okay, Java try block must be followed by either catch or finally block. Always remember this one. Without catch or without finally block, using the try block, monitoring the code for exception, it is useless. So if you are monitoring the code for exception, and if the exception occurs, and if the exception object is created and thrown out of the try block, and if you don't have the proper finally or proper catch block, then what will happen? The object will be given to the default handler, Java's default exception handler. In either way, it will go to the Java's default exception handler only, isn't it? Even if you don't use the try block, in that case also, the exception object will go to the Java's default exception handler only. That's the reason why whenever you are using the try block, it is must and should that you have to write the proper handler for that one, either the catch block or the finally block. The syntax for using the Java's try catch is, first you have to write the try block. First you have to take the try block, that is within the function only, within the method only, and immediately after the try block you need to write the catch block. Don't put any other statements in between the try and catch. Okay, so always you have to put the catch block immediately after the try block, or always you have to put the finally block immediately after the try block. Okay, so the try block, inside the try block, what we do means we will put the code, suspicious code, which is responsible for generating the exception, raising the exception. Okay, the catch block, when we study, what is the catch block? Catch block is used to handle the exception, okay, by declaring the type of exception within the parameters. So whatever exception type of object the try block is throwing, we need to write a suitable catch block for that one, so that we can handle the respective exception. Okay, the declared exception must be the parent class of exception. Okay, parent class exception, that is exception, or the generated exception type. If you are confused, okay, if you are confused between the different types of exceptions, what type of exception your try block is going to throw, directly go for the parent class, that is the exception class. Okay, exception class. If you see that, once again I will go to that. Yeah, here, see, so far we discussed about arithmetic exceptions, null pointer exceptions, number format exceptions, and array index out of bound exceptions. These four type of exception examples we discussed. Okay, how an arithmetic exception will be generated and how it will be handled, we discussed. Null pointer exception also we have discussed. We assign the string to null and we try to get the length of that string, so it is an error, so we got that also. Then number format exception, we tried to convert a string into numerical value, that is integer value, that is a number format exception, that also we have seen. Then index out of bound exception, array index out of bound exception we have seen. Okay, So if you are not sure, okay, when you're writing the code inside the try block, if you're not sure what type of exception your try block will generate, then simply instead of using the specific class, simply use the parent class, that is exception class. So if you use the exception class, what will happen? It will cover all these types of exceptions, both checked as well as unchecked. It will cover all these types of exceptions. Okay, we will see very soon. If you don't know the specific class name, if you don't want to make your program specific, then how we can generalize the handler by simply using the parent class, exception class. That also we will see. Go to that statement. Yes, here this also we discussed here. Okay. The good approach is to declare the generated type of exception. Always if you write the specific class to the generated exception type, it is a good practice. The reason, if you put the parent class, what will happen? The number of lines of code will increase because the parent class will have more code, but the specific class will have the less code. So always if you write the specific exception class over there, if you inside the exception handler, if you write the specific exception class, then what will happen? The number of lines of code will be decreased. Okay, because you are not generalizing, rather you are going in a specific way. So if you generalize, if you put the exception class over there, exception class has to monitor many different types of exceptions. So what it will do? It will put all that code into your application. Your application size will increase. Your number of lines of code will increase, isn't it? So always it is a good practice to go in a specific way rather than generalizing the stuff. It is a good practice to go in a specific way as far as the exceptions are concerned. Okay, meanings will change. Okay, the catch block must be used after the try block only. So without the try block, you can't use the catch block. You must have to use the catch block immediately after the try block only. Okay, you can use multiple catch blocks with a single try block. It is also possible. Your try block, it can throw multiple types of exceptions, not only a single type of exception, but it can throw multiple types of exceptions. If that is the case, you can put multiple catch blocks in order to handle every single type of exception. Okay, so we will see all these things in detail with clarity when we do the programming examples. So let's try to let's try to understand the problem if we don't use a try catch block. Already I gave this one. The rest of the code was ignored, isn't it? Before executing our previous programs, at that time only we discussed this thing, isn't it? I'm not using any try block, any catch block in this particular thing, in this particular main method. Rather, what I have done, I have simply written the line of code which is generating the arithmetic exception over here, and here the rest of the code. So what will happen? Here the arithmetic exception class object will be created and it will be thrown out of the block. So directly the control will be jumped from here to out of the block, isn't it? Here to out of the block with that exception object. The control will jump from here to out of the block with that exception object. Okay, and who will handle this exception over here? Because we are not having the handler over here. No catch block, no finally block, no try block. So who will handle this exception? The Java's default exception handler. The Java's default exception handler will handle this exception and will print the message, that is java.lang.arithmetic exception divide by 0. Will print the message, but it will not execute this rest of the code println statement. It will skip this because already the control is jumped out of the method. That's the reason this statement will be skipped. Okay, this statement will be skipped. Whenever an exception occurs in your Java programming, always a suitable object of that particular exception will be created and thrown out of the block with the control. If the control is going out of the block, there is no mean that the control will execute this statement. Already the control is jumped out of the block, so it will not come back to execute this statement. Remember this one. Okay. Next, solution by the exception handling we have already seen. We need to put the we need to put the suspicious statement inside the try block, and we need to monitor that statement for exception. And whenever there is an exception, a suitable exception will be created, and that suitable exception object will be created, and that object also be thrown out of the block. But when the object is thrown out of the block, your catch block, the exception handler, is ready to catch that object. It will catch it and it will handle it with a proper message. Okay, it will handle it. And once the handling is done, the control will continue with the rest of the code. It will not go out of the program. The control will continue with the rest of the code. So you will see this rest of the code message also on the output screen when you handle the exception properly. Okay, hopefully you understood this one. So another example here, yeah, what we are seeing is the rest of the code. What I told you, you need to put only the exception specific statements inside the try block, and don't put any other thing inside the try block. So what will happen if you put other stuff inside the try block? The statement which is generating the exception, at that point only the control will be thrown out of the block. So whatever statements you are keeping inside the try block, they will not be executed. Okay, other than the exception statements, they will not be executed. So this type of example we will see quickly on the edit plus. So what I have done over here in this thing, so I'm writing a simple arithmetic exception statement, that is int data equals to 100 divided by 0. So over here what is happening? Arithmetic exception is generated. So then I'm keeping my rest of the code inside the try block only. I'm keeping my rest of the code. Instead of keeping the rest of the code after the handler, I'm keeping my rest of the code inside the try block only. So can this code will be executed? No. The reason, here at this point the exception is arised, and as the exception is arised, the object of this particular exception, arithmetic exception, is created and thrown out of this block. The control is thrown out of this block, and your catch is handling that exception properly. It is doing its job, but even though the catch is doing its job properly, the control will not return back to the try block. That's the reason whatever statements you have written after the exception statement, okay, after the exception statement, whatever statements you have written, in case of exception is generated, those statements will not be considered by the control. Those statements will not be executed by the control. In this program, as the exception is arising over here, as the exception is occurring over here, immediately after this statement, whatever statements you have, those statements will be skipped. Yeah, quickly go and check. Yeah, here what type of exception it is? It is not array index out of bounds exception. It is arithmetic exception. Arithmetic exception. So simply put AE. That's it. Okay, save it. Tools, compile. Program got compiled successfully. So now I am executing. See here, arithmetic exception is occurring. That is divide by 0. I am getting the proper message. Okay, but rest of the code I am not seeing on the output screen. The reason, the rest of the code we kept inside the try block, which is skipped by the control when the exception is occurred. Okay, if there is no exception, let us assume if there is no exception, then what will happen? The rest of the code will be considered. Just do that statement over here. You put, instead of 0, you put 2 over here. Now there is no exception, as you can see. Now there is no exception. So what will happen? The catch block will not be executed. That is, the control will not go to the catch block. If there is an exception, in that case only the control will go to the catch block. Directly compile the program. I guess I will get an error. No error. Chalo. Then print it. Run it. As you can see, we are getting only rest of the code message. It is executing this statement. It is making the data as 50 and it is giving rest of the code. Okay. So in case if there is no exception, the immediate statement inside your try block will be executed. But if there is an exception, the control will be thrown out of the block. So there is no possibility of execution of this statement. So this statement will be simply skipped by the control. Compile it. As you can see, the statement got compiled successfully. Now you run it to see the output. As you can see, the rest of the code is skipped. Okay, this is something about it. Okay, So that difference we have observed. Okay. uh, yes, handling the exception using the parent class. So here, handling the exception using the parent class. So let us assume I don't know what type of exception occurring over here. Okay, I forgot the name of this exception, or I forgot the predefined class name, that is arithmetic exception class name. Let us assume I forgot. So then what I have to do, because I don't know the specific class name, you can put the exception class over here, the parent class exception class over here. Okay, it will also does your job, but the problem, the number of lines will execute, because the exception class, it is having many different things in it. Okay, many different things in it, so the code will increase. Okay, the code will increase. Just go and see how it will be, uh, what message you will get. Again, we will put this message out of the try block. Okay, yeah, here I will put. Now I should get the rest of the code also. Then compile it, handling the exception with parent class. Okay, how we are handling the exception with parent class object, we are handling, as you can see, we are getting the message, same message we are getting. Even when you put the arithmetic exception over here, you will get the same thing, and even when you put the exception over here, you will get the same thing. But the problem here is the lines of code will increase, because the exception class, it is a big class, it is a parent class, it is having more number of lines in it, so your application size will increase. So always it is better to put the specific class name over there. Okay, specific exception class name over there. Yeah, to print a custom message. So instead of giving the technical terms on the output screen, you can even give your own message on the output screen. See here, arithmetic exception it is printing, and then divide by 0 it is printing. So this divide by 0, okay, to some extent it is the basic type of exception, arithmetic exception. All the people will understand. Okay, divide by 0, all the people will understand. But if it is a database connection stuff, or if it is a file opening stuff, then you will get some technical terms over there. Okay, so those technical terms, they will not be understandable by the end parties. End parties are nothing but the end users. So what we have to do, instead of giving technical terms on the error message, on the exception error message, on exception description, what we have to give, we have to give simple messages, or we can say the custom messages generated by us, not by the stack trace, but by us. So what we have to do here, when you are printing the exception object, along with that, or simply remove this object, don't put this object, rather you put a custom message over here. Okay, division by 0 is performed. Divide by 0 is performed. Because of that reason, the program got terminated. Okay, divide by 0 is performed. So now what will happen, whenever you are performing divide by 0 operation, you will get this custom message. Instead of technical term, you will get this custom message. Just see this one. I'm saving the program. Go to compile. Compilation is successful. And next, run the program. See here, instead of technical term, now what I got division by 0 is performed. Okay, division by 0 is performed. That is the reason we are not getting the proper output. Okay, then rest of the code is also executing. So in this way, you can give a custom message. Instead of printing the exception object on the output screen, you can even print the custom output on the output screen, custom message on the output screen. Okay, to resolve the exception in a catch block. Okay, I just want to check the time. Okay, how much it is. Okay, it's almost 1.5 hours. So next thing, how we can take multiple catch blocks, that we need to discuss. And with multiple catch blocks, we have a few examples. Then nested try block we need to discuss. With nested try block also we have a few examples. Then finally block, how it is used and how it is helpful. Then finally the throw keyword, Throws keyword we need to discuss. Throw and throws. Throws keyword. That's it. Few things we left with. Inshallah, in our next class, we'll try to wind up this exception handling concept, and so that we can start the multi-threading. Okay, your multi-threading. And for CSE people, if we complete the multi-threading, it is the end of third unit. Okay, but for IT people, it is the end of second unit only. As I said many times, IT syllabus, it is very huge, very vast. I don't know why the university has done in that way, but when compared to CSE people, IT people are studying a lot of Java concepts. So that's the reason I'm making these things mandatory for both. I'm following only the IT syllabus, and I'm making CSE students also to learn all those things. But for your exam preparation point of view, CSE people, you have the added advantage. You can go with the syllabus copy. Okay, follow my lectures, but go according to your syllabus. Whatever topics you have inside your syllabus, that only you prepare from my lectures. Okay, other than that, if you go according to my lectures, whenever you're uh, spending time on learning new things, it is not what we call problem to you people. Definitely you will learn new concepts, new things, and somewhere or the other way, definitely these things are going to help you. Okay, thank you very much, students.